which is supposed to be held tomorrow, would only be open to members of ODM party, because she said that she does not want to see any other person wearing any outfit, yellow outfit and things like that. Basically saying that UDA members or affiliated people are not welcome to the FINRO. Ongondo Were's colleagues, Ongondo Were, by the way, because he's a distant uncle, I know him, distant uncle, distant in-law, someone I know, has an extraction from Meru, because he lived and did his business in Meru before he came into parliament. So he has close associates who are UDA, very close associates. I also know, Trevor, that in Homa Bay County, where Ongondo Were hails from, there are very many members of the UDA party. The concern, therefore, is that when, as a leader of a national party, you try to lock out members of another political party, whether in competition or not, Trevor, and whether or not there is an agreement that says that parties respect their space. The respect of space for a political party does not mean disenfranchising members with other shades of opinion from either attending occasions or being part of the affairs of ODM. The death, Trevor, touches everyone. I think it goes beyond party lines. Whether or not you are in UDA or Jubilee, if you lose your life, whether or not I'm in UDA or ODM, I will be affected by that loss. And every person is affected. For instance, Trevor, the chair of Ongondo Were's committee, the National Cohesion Committee, is from UDA. How do you lock out members of parliament from UDA from attending a FINRO in Kasipul? So, one thing Sifuna has done today is that he's not angry. He's very good.
I'm waiting for some of the things that you are saying.
He's not angry.
Might anger me. No. What you've just said now, you are not providing context.
No, but I'm going into context. I'm going to
provide context for the words that Wanga spoke.
Yeah. Yes, I am clear about the words. They could be replayed. He said that he does not want to see party, mixed party, yellow, whatever, in the FINRO. But let me say this. The cohesion, as a leader in this country, I am a leader, we must ensure that everything that we say brings our people together. That cohesion will be maintained. In fact, in that agreement that the document is talking to, that has not provided a coalition. And I agree with him that there's no coalition between UDA and ODM in the document that was signed by His Excellency William Ruto and the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. But that document speaks to an engagement that changes the framework of governance in this country. An engagement that brought in members of ODM, in fact, leaders in the party, into government. The Honorable Mbadi, then chair.
That's not true.
The Honorable Mbadi was chair of ODM, a former chair, leader of minority in the House. The Honorable Wandai, a former leader in the House as well, brought into government. The document, Trevor, created a new beginning. Yeah. It was a new beginning in the relationship between UDA and ODM. Because we never had cabinet ministers in the UDA government before June 2024. It was after the Gen Z invasion. It was after the arrangement that started a conversation between Raila Odinga and His Excellency President Ruto. So that arrangement was obviously an arrangement between two leaders of two political parties. So this document merely formalized an intention that was expressed by the appointment of members of ODM into cabinet. And I expected Sifuna to be in cabinet.
Why?
But even when he missed out, no, because you're a competent leader. Oh, when he missed out,
I'm a competent.
No, he's a competent leader. When he missed out, my concern is, Trevor, had Sifuna been appointed to the gender docket, he would not be speaking like this. I can assure you. I can assure you. And he was due to be appointed, but something happened, and he wasn't appointed. Yeah. So let me tell you this. This document only confirmed what had been done before. And that is why I respect Senator Oburu. Senator Oburu is speaking from his heart. He's speaking from his heart because he's philosophizing. He understands the foundations that informed the relationship between ODM and UDA. Yeah. So Sifuna is speaking to a document, but Senator Oburu is speaking to the philosophy behind the document. So that is the story that Sifuna is not telling, that there were arrangements, agreements, and other side protocols or agreements that led to this document. So as Sifuna says, he never signed any document, which is true. But this document has a foundation. That foundation is the unseen arrangements between His Excellency William Ruto and the Right Honourable Raila Odinga that eventually led to this document.
But will it,
so this document,
leaders of the ODM like Sifuna have an issue with this?
There's much more. Sifuna is speaking from the document, but it's not just the document. What informs relationships between political parties is the understanding between their leaders. Documents aside, it is that understanding. And it is that understanding that will define whether or not His Excellency William Ruto gets a second term. And that relationship is what has seen the several inroads that the Honorable William Ruto has made in Nyanza and other parts that support him. Let me tell you, Trevor, for the first time since the advent of devolution, and last time I told you, Kisumu so far in devolved funds has received 73.7 billion Kenya shillings. Migori 70.1 billion Kenya shillings. And we see projects that are live for the first time. A region that is marginalized getting actual funds put into road projects that were never there before. A region that hardly benefited from projects. Now we see projects that will change the lives of people in that region. So Sifuna should not speak the way he spoke in Senate, accusing Mbadi of focusing on the interests in Nyanza, because he must focus on those interests, because we have been marginalized.
Okay. Doesn't that then bring in the ethnic?
It is not, it is the national question, the regional question. A region that has been marginalized must be brought to the same level as the other regions. And that is what Mbadi spoke to, that in dealing with the roads projects that were supposed to have been done during the administration of the Jubilee government and before, he's trying to bring up the region. For instance, the Lake Victoria road network, the one that will open the region, will not just benefit one county, it will benefit all the 14 counties in the LREB region.
Okay.
It will benefit all the way from Nyamira, Homa Bay, and all the counties connecting to Western. You see Sifuna represents Nairobi, but he's from Western. So he should be happy that Mbadi is opening the Western region for him.
Okay. See, is there a broad-based government or not? There seems to be a bit of a push and pull here.
Trevor, I'm liking this conversation because we are very objective. Listening to Sifuna and listening to Professor Tom Ojenda, the objectivity of whatever it's going on is true. But I want to put to context that comment by the Honorable Sifuna yesterday in the Senate about whether there is an existing broad-based government or not. And the context is in terms of why did it become necessary to have a conversation about that issue at that moment. I sit in the Senate Business Committee. The previous day, when we were planning on the business of the House, Senate had not received any communication from Honorable John Mbadi about his inability to appear yesterday before the Senate. Remember, Trevor, this is a requirement of the law. As a cabinet minister, as a cabinet secretary for the Republic of Kenya, in the docket that he is now, he is under an obligation in the Constitution of Kenya to appear before the Senate to answer questions that members have tabled. Not questions about a certain region, a certain interest by an individual senator, but questions for projects, issues raised across the country. If you were to look at the order paper for yesterday, those questions were there, were done from various members of the Senate. I can't recall whether Senator Sifuna had a question, but I think he had. Actually, the first question was, similarly, Senator Wambua had a question. And the context was, a day before, when we are planning for the operations of the House, we had received communication from one other cabinet secretary that she wouldn't be available to be present. We excused her because of the letter that came and proper notice. Remember, our standing orders requires that if, as a cabinet secretary, you are unable to appear, you must communicate in writing to the Senate within reasonable time, actually 48 hours prior to the appearance. So that was the context with which every other member of the Senate was mad at John Mbadi, that you can't write to us in the morning and tell us that I cannot come to the Senate to answer these questions, and was still, what are the reasons? Because we are all human beings. An incident could happen, a situation can occur that denies you your presence in a certain place that you are required to come. That was the context of that conversation. That is why later on I saw the media saying, look, Senator King, Speaker Kingi has led Senate in attacking. That was not an attack. We, as a House, have got responsibility to represent. The question that you had asked me, we represent the people of Kenya. If that question was not answered yesterday, we do not have any other time to come and answer them. And if cabinet secretaries don't appear, we lose the role and also the mandate that we have as a House. So then that puts the context. Therefore, any other cabinet secretary, as we've all said before, represent the people of Kenya. They do not represent regions. They do not represent their tribes. And it is true, where the Honorable former Vice President, or Deputy President rather, Gachagua, you know, you can't wake up every morning and say Murima, Murima. It is Correct. Not Murima. We are leaders representing Kenya. Our late colleague, Honorable Were, Tom here has made reference that he also has got he's his uncle's distant uncle. I don't know what that means, distant uncle. But I want to say that Were also has got relatives from Bomet. His wife comes from Bomet. His other wife comes from the county of Bomet. Honorable Were was in Bomet 2 weeks ago, burying his brother-in-law. And therefore, he's a leader not only for the people of Kasipul, but being a member of parliament, he represents a constituency, but in the Republic of Kenya. Therefore, we definitely condemn comments that would unnecessarily create tension to the people of Kenya, to the constituents we represent in any other such forum. Because all of us would want to go and, send him off on Friday. And therefore, if I were to choose to put on the colors of UDA, though it's not a political forum, if unfortunately that day becomes a day that I really feel like I should do and don my yellow colors, nobody should deny me that ability, but it is not one of those things that we should call upon others to fight. Allow me to say then something about what Senator Sifuna has taken you through and the rest of Kenyans who are watching with regards to the MOU that was signed between President William Ruto and Raila Amolo Odinga. It is true, as Sifuna puts it, in the August election of 2022, a government was elected. That government is the Kenya Kwanza government. That is the government that formed this particular government. Fast forward, this MOU was signed. It is a formal document. It has got what Sifuna has read, formal intentions by the principals of the two parties, Raila Amolo Odinga and William Ruto. I mean, it is an MOU. It is not a coalition agreement. Well put. Because as a lawyer, I would understand the context of everything else. But then the issues which were captured in this particular MOU were formalized by that signing to show that these two principles set certain intentions on commitments to do certain things for the people of Kenya, to cooperate. That is why a number of my friend Sifuna would call them experts earlier on. Right now, well, of course, I know he still refers. They were brought in experts in government. The beauty of a democracy, the beauty of freedom of speech, to the extent that we are aware there was a commitment. These two people decided, let's cooperate, let's bring Kenyans together. Let us also set up a framework with which we can cool down the political temperatures in the country so that we can concentrate on serving the people of Kenya. And definitely, the agenda that Kenya Kwanza had, the agenda that ODM had, was not for ODM zones. It was for the people of Kenya. Similarly, Kenya Kwanza, the same thing. Therefore, if we have convergence of mind as leaders and we have got goodwill to support each other in serving the people of Kenya, so be it. And that is exactly what we are.
Okay.
And the visits, I wouldn't want to call them political tours the way Senator Sifuna has called them. These are development visits to various places across the country by the president. And sometimes it's important to also have him be accompanied by the executive
leaders from that region,
who in most cases would be expected to be the ones to implement. Ours is to do an oversight and to fight for additional resources. The unfortunate thing is the context with which we mostly would put certain speeches and how our colleagues have their platforms to share with the people of Kenya. Because, well, if I were to be in Bomet today, definitely, I must say what is it that this government has brought in for the country at large and specifically for the people of Kenya. So, importantly, those tours has actually helped this country to be united, to be focused, and the political temperature somehow have allowed the government to attempt to deliver to the people of Kenya.
Sifuna, there's an increasing perception that you're sabotaging this broad-based arrangement now that you don't want to call it a government.
I don't know how I'm sabotaging, but let me just calm the nerves of my colleagues here who intend to come for the burial in Homa Friday. Context is important, Trevor. I was trying to persuade my brother to provide context, not to ask for video, to provide context for the words that came from the party chairperson, the Honorable Gladys Wanga. Number one, she referred to a previous incident. Just a few weeks before this incident, there was another burial there in Homa Bay. And some youths who are sponsored and dressed in UDA colors came to that particular funeral and misbehaved. That is the context within which she spoke. I am personally very averse to going to these burials where people come dressed in political colors. But you'll forgive us on Friday because it was Ongondo Were's wish that he be buried in ODM colors. So if you see ODM there, don't say, oh, Sifuna said we should not dress like that. But yesterday at the memorial, both the governor of Homa Bay and the senator of Homa Bay invited every person from every color to come to mourn this great leader, and we gave assurances that for as long as we all respect the decorum, we expect to have a peaceful send-off for the Honorable Ongondo Were. Now, secondly, Trevor, I can forgive Salasia for refusing to read this document and assuming Sifuna signed it, but I cannot forgive Professor Ojienda. Because, Professor, you are a lawyer. When you see people running away from a document, and that's the reason I have brought this thing here, because there's been a lot of nonsense being said about the contents of this document. Luckily for us, all of us here, we are lawyers. They know about the parole evidence rule, that once the contents of an agreement have been reduced into a document, you do not introduce oral evidence to explain its contents because the document will speak for itself. The people who are supporters of this animal, called broad-based, are running away from the contents of the document. That is why the president gets annoyed with me when I remind him what the document says. So when you see Ojienda coming and telling us, oh, there is the document, then there's a philosophy. Read the document. This document is not what brought the former chairperson of ODM into government. As I've said, Trevor, that so-called broad-based animal started existing in Ruto's mind before this document was signed. This document was signed on 7th of February 2025. By that time, Mbadi, Joho, and the others were already in cabinet. This document is not the reason why they are there. And if you want to understand the discussions that went prior, the philosophy is captured here, Ojienda, that we understand that a nation will not develop without reinforcing democratic governance and the rule of law. And I wish, Trevor, you brought to me on this show alone, so that I can explain to you the contents of this document, so that people like Ojienda don't introduce things that are not there. You are a professor of law. Please don't behave like Salasia. Read the document so that you understand and explain to your people what it says. Number three, Trevor, he has made an assertion here that I was angling for for cabinet.
For gender ministry.
Ministry of Gender. I understand why he said gender, because he knows I'm very loved by the ladies, which is not something we can say about him. But the truth is, I have no intention. Of serving in a government such as the one that is in existence.
So you would never take a cabinet position?
I would never. In fact, they know.
We've seen some of your own people like Professor Makau Mutua say never, then he comes in.
I am not Makau Mutua, I'm not any one of these people who
so for the record, you would never take a
if I don't know how I can put it. I have no intention. I am very happy serving the people of Nairobi as a senator of Nairobi. And even in 2027, I've said I will not seek any other office other than the office of senator of Nairobi. I am happy where I am. When he speaks about marginalization, you know, this is a very interesting conversation from two perspectives. Number one, all of us who support Raila Odinga have been marginalized because of our politics. I want you to understand that point, that ODM and the leader of ODM, Raila Odinga, is not a leader of the Luo. He's not a leader of Luo Nyanza. Raila Odinga is a leader of Kenya. His people, including Sifuna, who doesn't come from Luo Nyanza, has been marginalized because of the position we have taken to support him. You go to the coast, you go to people in North Rift. I went to Baringo. I have my chairman there called Wesley Lekakimon. He's being marginalized because of his position as chairperson of ODM in Baringo. If you took another angle, Trevor, list for me the areas in this country that are marginalized. My goodness. From independence, Honorable Ojienda, are you telling me that it is only Luo Nyanza that is marginalized? What would you say to the people of Turkana, people who have no access to water 60 years after independence? If we truly were addressing marginalization, you would see John Mbadi telling us how he has helped the Ilchamus in Baringo as a people who are marginalized. The problem we have is when you characterize Luo Nyanza as the only marginalized area. If really we are addressing marginalization agenda, give us a list of the people of Mandera. You have an international airport in Kisumu. I went to Mandera and there is no runway. There is no runway. The plane lands on that. There is no electricity in Mandera. So when you are peddling your transformers there, when I see CS Energy saying, oh, we're putting these transformers here and there, remember the people of Mandera are not even on the national grid. So please, my brother, we are not saying that the people of Luo Nyanza or Western Kenya have not been marginalized. Let us approach marginalization as a national problem. And we are national leaders, Ojenda. You are a senator for the Republic of Kenya, elected by the people of Kisumu. Speak for other people as well. We know you represent the people of Kisumu. We have no problem with that. So when we talk about marginalization, let us look at it as a national problem. Lastly, on this MOU, when Trevor, we are told that there was a discussion on the issues. These are the issues. We spoke about devolution. For us to get the leader of UDA to sign this document, in fact, when we were preparing this document was prepared in my office in KICC. So I know the document. Others are asking me, oh, but Sifuna, why were you there? As SG of ODM, I don't speak for myself. I am not present in these events to represent Sifuna. As you know, we had a meeting of the Central Committee that morning to ratify this document. And I went there to confirm to the country that the committee, that is the job of SG, that the committee has looked at this document and we have endorsed it. Because these are the issues that ODM believes in. The first issue there, it is to implement priority issues that came out of NADCO, including the cost of living, youth and employment. We have talked about devolution, which he speaks about. It talks about defending against any clawback on devolved functions. When you see Raila Odinga saying the president should not be building markets, it is a devolved function. This is what this document speaks about. Devolving all funds allocated to devolved functions. When you see Raila saying release money meant for roads, it is pursuant to this agreement. When he says increase budgetary allocation, when I stand up during the burial of George Odwor and I say you agreed to increase budgetary allocation to counties to 450 billion Kenya shillings, not 405. Yeah. The president gets annoyed and threatens to call founder members of ODM to discipline the SG of ODM. Because it is my responsibility. Agenda will not do this. I am the person who is responsible for this marking scheme, timely and predictable disbursement of devolved funds. This is something we fight over. Agenda is talking about 70 billion going to you to where? Even as we speak today, Trevor, counties have not received money since February, since this agreement was signed. So when we remind these people of what the document is, that is why you see they run away. They run away because they are failing. I have given them an E out of these issues, and I could go on and on. Out of these issues, there is nothing they have done. I think the only thing that's what I'm saying. My job, it is 2 months later, Hillary, my job as SG, I have the marking scheme. I can show you all these issues here, none of which you have done. I think the only one you have tried is opportunities in public appointments, and I think we are in the first budget cycle. We want to see equitable budgetary resource allocation in this current budget. So, Trevor, when you say I am sabotaging, by reminding us of our own commitments, you are being unfair. Because this is a document I know by heart. I was there when it was being prepared. As I've told you, it was done in my office, you know. So the people who are jittery, when Sifuna reminds us of our obligations, of the things that we promised to do, are the ones sabotaging this government.
Okay.
They are not me.
Trevor.
And I need us to talk about the political realignments now.
This is very unfair.
Yeah.
That Sifuna came to this talk show with a marking scheme. And not just a marking scheme, but he has highlighted the marking.
It's my document, Agenda. This document is public. No one stops you. You have no. Let me just say, all senators have the same facilities. You will find a printer in Sifuna's office and a marker. If the senator of Kisumu does not have a printer and a marker, that is his own problem. How can I be blamed for marking?
Sifuna came for a fight against a coalition, and you've heard that. The prolegomena to this document, which speaks to the lack of a coalition, is what he's spoken about. And then now he goes to the detail of the 10-point agreement that he has.
And gives an E.
Senator Oburu marked this same document last weekend when we were in Migori for the launch of various roads in Migori and the projects.
Did he have the document?
Senator Oburu spoke from the heart, and he spoke to the philosophy of this document.
Is not
and I think from judging from what I saw, Oburu gave an A, and you're giving an E. That means you are speaking against the broad-based arrangement. But let me say this, Trevor, that on marginalization, Senator Sifuna has a point that several parts of this country have been systematically over a long period marginalized right from independence. So I do not say, Senator Sifuna, that Mandera, Wajir, and Turkana and other northern counties are not marginalized. They are marginalized. But the programmatic and deliberate effort by the president to bring these counties to the level where we have counties in central Kenya is important. And that is why the road network, Trevor, and you know that the president was in Northeastern the other day, Mandera, and he talked about connecting, ensuring there's connectivity right from the north to the center so that we have access from the north. It is only fair, Trevor, that the president, while visiting the southernmost county of Migori, also speaks to the same project so that we have that connectivity from Migori, Kisumu, all the way to Nairobi, so that we have development brought together in a manner that is rational, in a manner that develops the country as a unit. And that is the sense of the broad-based arrangement of government. So, Sifuna, do not fight a government that will help you in the end. Because Sifuna is just looking at Nairobi, a cosmopolitan with diversity in ethnicity and all those things. We have to deal with counties that have problems, counties that require development projects, but that eventually feed Nairobi. And that is why it is important for Sifuna, when we speak about a broad-based arrangement, an arrangement that does not discriminate, an arrangement that ignores political views and political party affiliation, an arrangement that brings together all the people in this country. He should support the broad-based arrangement, the way Senator Oburu, who is our senior most. Remember, Senator Oburu is serving his 6th term in the National Assembly. He has sat in all these assemblies. When Migori spoke to me and he told me that whilst President Ruto may have served 4 or 5 terms, he was the senior most elected member of parliament, having served 6 terms. And please respect Oburu.
Okay. I have not disrespected him.
Yes,
you are trying to set me up. Oburu, who is my friend, my senior, my mentor, I have told you, we had a conversation with him, and he explained to me why he was also angry. I have said it.
Okay.
Trevor,
would you rate give that document an E? Now that
Honorable Sifuna has taken us through this document, not for purposes of this debate, but for purposes of putting to context the kind of an arrangement that is existing in the government of the day-to-day. He has also gone, and it's true, as he said, I mean, the document can speak for itself. I do not, however, agree with the marking scheme that is given an E, because I've just gone through it. It's his document. I didn't carry this, although I have a copy of it. It is true that this is a public document. For instance, he's agreed that under aspect number 2, inclusivity of all spheres of life. Let me start from where he said that it's an ongoing thing. Ordinarily, and as a leader, it is not possible to get into office today and resolve all those issues hanging within that day. So it is true and correct for him to say the inclusivity aspect, which was item number 2 in this particular document, was agreed, is ongoing. It is indeed ongoing. However, when we say it's ongoing, you know, it cuts across so many things. You include people, first of all, in governance. The rest of those other things now will flow, because it is through this kind of inclusivity in leadership and governance that the marginalized areas will be reached. That is why the president has been going around the country, from Western, Nyanza, yesterday and the previous day he was in Narok, places where people, quote unquote, have for a very long time not seen. I mean, there are places in this country where the president has never reached, and it's only in this particular arrangement that has happened. So that being one of the core agreements that were arrived at in this document, it doesn't serve to be an E, for instance. Number 2, the NADCO process, which was one of the first things. And I know Sifuna and Professor Tom here will agree that we have prioritized the position of the document that was called NADCO, which actually collected views from Kenyans. It was passed in the National Assembly. We have tabled it in the Senate. We had a mediated version. That in itself is an achievement that has been brought out by this document. That has happened. I have looked at the aspect on the protection of devolution. The president has championed this aspect, and though we have not had enough of resources going to the counties, it is not about the deficiency or sometimes even the delay of disbursement of those funds that we don't feel the aspect on devolution. There is a bigger problem, which is corruption in all our counties, and we are doing this almost every day in the Senate. Every senator, when he stands up to speak about something. Yesterday we spoke about various reports which were tabled in the House by various committees, and in particular the Committee on Health, for example. It indicted almost all the counties in terms of the corruption status in health. So when the president says that let us support devolution, in the latest shareable revenue that was passed, it is an improvement from last year. Last year we had 387. We have enhanced it to 401. We are debating from today the new formula for sharing resources to the counties. That in itself is a show of someone who supports devolution. Admitted, there are certain times when there are delays, for instance, and certain functions. For example, these markets, by the way, spurs greater economy. Whether or not it is something that we will, because we can't, for instance, in our counties, say we will tell the national government, don't come and build for us these markets because it's a devolved function. No. Because we want development projects to go to the counties. We cannot tell the national government, please don't come and do this particular road. We, in fact, to the contrary, push for every other aspect of development to go down to the counties. So if I was to go one by one, and I'm very sure I'll be able to say it is not E. But there are areas where we have not achieved what had been committed in this document. But it is work in progress. More importantly, President Moi,
give it an F.
President Moi told us when we were young, Siasa mbaya, maisha mbaya. I keep on saying it because if we politicize everything in an environment that is very murky, that is unstable, that is, we are fighting left, right, center, we don't do anything. But in a situation like where we are, there is an aspect of unity from among Kenyans, especially in the leadership level. We are able to push for certain commitments to serve the people. And that is exactly one of the greatest achievements. We used to have Tuesday and Sunday demonstrations here in the streets, sometimes led by my colleague here. But right now, we are focused on issues to the extent that when Honorable John Mbadi fails to appear in the Senate, we speak in one voice. When a cabinet secretary does the wrong thing, we speak in one voice. Not because we have got political differences, which is given, we should always be having our different opinions, but because we know what? We have a common agenda, that is the agenda to serve the people of Kenya.
Speaking of moving forward,
and so it can never be an E.
So what did you give it?